Hi. So yeah, it's a bit late. I kind of forgot, but I also think it was kind of a gift from God that I forgot because I went to small group and then I went to, and then coming home from small group, I actually listened to the sermon on Sunday because I didn't really get a chance to listen to it because I was hosting. And that was really good. And last few times I've kind of also not wanted to talk about other stuff because I wanted to focus on this, but I realized walking home that kind of half of this is actually talking about other stuff. And like maybe it originally wasn't planned to be like when I was first starting the channel, but it's part of the channel. So let's talk about the sermon. The sermon was from the guy. Um, it wasn't the normal pastor. He was the director of 24/7 prayer. He international director of 24/7 prayer. Um, yeah, Brian Hearsley, international director of 24/7 prayer, which is a Christian organization. So he was in town and was basically preaching, and it was all about where is my garden, and it was talking about where do we go to find solitude with God, to spend time with God, and I realized especially I don't really have one. And I kind of listened to a church and I was like, oh, church is my one, but church isn't a good one to be one because I know that sounds weird because like, oh yeah, obviously that's where you spend time with God, but it's like that shouldn't in the same way that people shouldn't only have one safe space. There shouldn't be only one. It's kind of like a safe space, except it's a private one where you can go to be alone. And church is my one safe space, so I kind of need to find another private space where I can be alone and feel safe with God. And while there are moments in my room where that happens, it doesn't always happen. But then again, maybe I'm changing my room up. Maybe that will help. I don't know. Maybe it won't. But that's an ongoing process of trying to find a place where I feel at peace with God. But I also talked about imposter syndrome, which I'm pretty sure I suffer from. Like, I've never been formally diagnosed, but I definitely tick a lot of the boxes. Like, seriously, I have got a ridiculous number of awards and accolades, yet I still feel like I'm a liar and failure. Which, yeah, isn't good. Something else I wanted to talk about that I realized at small group. In small group, we're going over this book called. I actually can't remember the name of the book. I can find the name of the book, but basically, it's going on about how to be evangelical in like the modern world. Like the book's called "Surprise the World," by Michael Frost, and it's basically about how to be evangelical, but not everyone's evangelical, but how to live radically, live differently, live bizarrely, live questionably. Like the book and the Bible is a radical book, and no one really talks about it because it doesn't seem radical anymore. Because the baseline of what it proposed isn't radical anymore because most of Western society was based off that. Whereas nowadays, but if you actually think about it, it is. If you go back and you understand the context of when it was being written and you look at different things and what underlying messages of what it was saying, you realize that if you take it at face value, what it says at face value, then yeah, it's not that radical anymore. But if you take what the underlying messages of love and life, then it's way more radical than anything else. Like it's way more transforming, way more loving, way more blessing, and it's still questionable. It's something that's exemplified in. Did you know that the army has chaplains? Like everyone knows that armies have chaplains. Like most people know that. If you know anything about the army, you probably know that most armies have them. Definitely have them in Australia. Did you know they have trouble getting chaplains? Like the Uniting Church, I think in Australia is the one that supplies most of the chaplains, and even that's like iffy. But and the second after that, and then as a wider group, the Christians are the one that supply most. You barely. I think there are some Muslim. There are some other ones. There I definitely know there are some Muslim ones. I don't know if there's any Jewish. I don't know. But basically, these are the people that they can get to be chaplains. Like basically, for a while there, they were talking about trying to get rules in place to get everyone equal representation from all the groups. And in the end, they couldn't do that because they realized there weren't enough people wanting to be chaplains, which is crazy. Like RE teachers, even like those are all volunteer positions in prisons and stuff. Even other religions, that isn't something that commonly is done. Like everyone assumes that, oh yeah, Christians do it, that's normal, but no one else does it. And it's kind of weird because like they do everything else. Like people are like, oh, I'm a good person, I do this, and it's like, yeah, you wouldn't do that. And I know that sounds weird because like obviously I would never do that, but you have to understand, it's not like your group, the groups that there are, but it's kind of indicative of the group as a whole. It's like, well, why is no one in your group willing to do that? And yeah, why am I willing to talk to a camera with no editing whatsoever and read the Bible while staring at the thing, which is like basic etiquette 101. Don't not stare at the people you're talking to, but I'm like, I need to read it, and this isn't memorized. I haven't read this before. And yeah, it's just like, but do I care? No, it's what I'm doing. It's what I feel like I have to do. But yeah, life's going a lot better for me. And that's the other takeaway. Like, last few weeks were hard and rocky, but I'm better and I'm back now. And hopefully this time it'll stick. It might not. We don't know. Healing has its ups and downs, but I think even though last week and a few weeks before were worse, the healing was easier. And I was also hearing all these things about, sometimes like when I'm saying these tips on helping, like I'm worried that I'll come off like a cheesy well-being officer who doesn't understand. Is just like, oh, smile, it'll make you happy. Smile more, it'll make you happy. And like, which is complete bullshit. But at the same time, it's not bullshit. And you know why? Well, at least it's not complete bullshit for me. Basically, when I smile, people tend to smile back. People don't always smile back, but people do sometimes smile back. And that means someone's smiling at me. And that makes me happy. So, like, the actual active of smiling, like, I wonder if that's what people are measuring. Because if you're smiling, people are more likely to smile back at you. And people smiling at you makes you feel good about yourself. Just in general. So, like, that. So smiling does make me happy, but not because the people are like, oh, take it till you make it thing. It was like, it's less that. It's more, if I smile at people, people will smile back. That makes me happy. Small bits of joy like that. And also, I know smiling at people makes me happy. So even if they don't smile back, I know when I smiled at someone. And that way they've got a smile. And that's always good to have. Because I want to put more smiles in the world. Like, I want people to feel better. Like, there was this YouTube shorts thing that talked about like have these weird frowny faces, and it's like, oh, I make these for my depression and stuff, I want to be still cute, and I'm like, yeah, and like I'll never make smiley ones because I don't want to fit a thing. I was like, which all makes sense. It all made sense. Like I'm completely undercutting what they're saying, but it was kind of like me saying like, but I would want the little smiley face one, not because a frowny face makes me uncomfortable, but because, well, in a way, it does make me uncomfortable, but it's less because I don't think someone with depression can't be beautiful or cute or whatever. It's because when I see someone frowning, I also feel sad. That's my link of empathy, and the fact that it's a toy does nothing. I'd rather have something that's able to that's smiling at me and make me happy, than something that's frowning at me. Like when I'm doing better, I'll probably go and buy the frowny one because they're a cool thing, and I want to support that kind of stuff, and that's a really cool thing. And the concept behind why you're doing it like that is awesome. But it's also like my mental health could not handle it right now. Like I'm better and definitely couldn't have handled it. Like technically, probably I would be able to handle it now, but like definitely a year ago, I would not have been able to like mentally be able to have one as a thing, because it's like that would have dragged me further down, even though it's a toy. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but even just watching that video of like seeing the frowny face, I'm like, I feel sad because the thing's sad. and I don't want anything to be sad. I probably need to, which I do need to deal with. Like, I shouldn't be that empathetic to anyone randomly crossing a street. Like, you know what I was actually going to say? You know, Arya Potter. I don't know if your real name is, but Arya Potter, if you're still watching this, please tell me if you're alright. I'm still praying it for you. I hope you're getting my prayers. But if you're not alright, but you don't have to actually tell me if you're alright or not. I don't care, but like, just know I am praying for you. Have been the entire year, so I hope you're doing alright. I know you're in Russia and things aren't necessarily the best for you, especially since you very clearly didn't already fit in and you're part of a church where you definitely didn't fit in and stuff. And you live in a dictatorship that doesn't like people that are different, and you live in a dictatorship, which means you can't express, you don't feel safe. And I'm sorry for that, and just know I'm praying for you that you are safe. And honestly, I hope that and I just pray that something hasn't already happened. This has gone way longer than most of my other videos on doing Matthew have gone already. So let's actually get started and read Matthew 8, because that's what we're up to. Sermon on the Mount's done, which is one of the reasons I felt like I could do this. And this is probably going to be a bit of a short one. But yeah, Matthew 8. Jesus cleans a leper. When he came down from the mountain, great crowds followed him, and behold, a leper came to him and knelt before him, saying, Lord, if you will, you can make me clean. And Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, I will be clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus said to him, See that you say nothing to anyone, but go and show yourself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commanded for proof to them. The faith of a centurion. When he had entered Capernaum, a centurion came forward to him, appealing to him, Lord, my servant is lying paralyzed at home, suffering terribly. And he said to him, I will come and heal him. But the centurion replied, well, Lord, I am not worthy to have you come under my roof, but only say the word, and my servant will be healed. For I am a man under authority, with soldiers under me. And I say to one, go, and he goes, and to another, come, and he comes. And to my servant, do this, and he does it. And when Jesus heard this, he marveled and said to those who followed him, Truly I tell you, with no one in Israel have I found such faith. I tell you, many will come from the east and west to reconcile at the table with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in the kingdom of heaven. When sons of the kingdom will be thrown into outer darkness, in that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. And to the centurion, Jesus said, Go, let it be done for you as you have believed. And the servant was healed that very moment. Honestly, I find it crazy that a Roman soldier, like, believed straight up. It's like, yep. It's like, the thing is, before Jesus, they couldn't practice as a Jewish person. Like, that would have been frowned upon. They were a Gentile. Like, I think there might have been, like, in the Old Testament, I think there are supposed to be some policies, but by the time period that this was set in, those policies would have been hard to follow. And I can just imagine, like, they're a Roman person, they're born in Rome, they're probably not. There is chance that they were both in a Jewish home, but there's every chance that they weren't born Jewish. And yet they believe in Yahweh, they believe in God, and they believe that Jesus is the Son of Man, and are like, I've seen you do this, and I believe. And I think that's awesome. But then on the other hand, it could just be that he's heard of the miracle worker who's done these things and is like, yeah, that sounds right based on his polytheistic religion. And both are equally valid. And that is so weird to me, because it doesn't matter if he believed that Jesus wasn't actually the Son of Man or whatever, or the Messiah. He might not have understood what Jesus was, but he was like, you seem to have been doing a lot of miracles. I believe you can do a miracle like this. And it's like, I can just imagine in his mind that he doesn't quite understand what he's saying. And both are equally true. Which I think is an interesting concept. Him not actually believing in Yahweh. Huh. No one's ever presented it like that, but that was a thought that came to my mind just then. Discuss in the comments. Please, please discuss. And then let's continue on. Jesus heals many. And when Jesus entered Peter's house, he saw his mother-in-law laying sick with a fever, and he touched her hand, and the fever left her, and she rose and began to serve him. That evening they brought him to many who were oppressed by demons, and he cast out the spirits with a word, and healed all who were sick. This was to fulfill what was spoken by the prophet Isaiah. He took out our illnesses and bore our diseases. The cost of following Jesus. Now, when Jesus saw a crowd around him, he gave orders to go over to the other side. And a scribe came up to him and said to him, "Teacher, I will follow you wherever you go." And Jesus said to him, "Foxes have holes and birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Another of the disciples said to him, "Lord, let me first go and bury my father." And Jesus said to him, "Follow me and leave the dead to bury their own." I've actually heard this one before, and I will say, like, you think that sounds ridiculous, but like, surely mourning and weeping and like be able to bury his father. Like, thing is, he probably wasn't talking about his father. It wasn't like, "Oh, my father's just died. Let me follow you when we've done the funeral." It was more like, "Oh, my father is still alive. I will follow you when my father is. I no longer have to care for him and free to go out and be my own person, because currently I'm at home caring for the family and caring for my father and whatever." And that's what's actually going on here, less of like, "Oh, my father has just died and I go funeral." Like, it's more like, "Oh, yeah, my father's probably not going to die for another 10 years, but like once he's done, I'll follow you. Once I will follow you." So like it's like, it may seem harsh, but also like the context of like what was going on, it's less harsh. Like, it's just the guy's making excuses at this point. Anyway, Jesus calms a storm. When he got into a boat, his disciples followed him, and behold, there arose a great storm on the sea. So the boat was being swamped by waves, but he was asleep. And they went and woke him, saying, "Save us, Lord, we are perishing." And he said to them, why are you afraid, O you of little faith?" Then he rose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was a great calm. And the men marveled, saying, "What sort of man is this, that even the winds and the sea obey him?" Jesus calms a lot of the storms. I don't know, in Matthew he hasn't done it yet, but the thing is, based on the timeline, I think he might have already done one already, or it could be his first one, I might be forgetting, but like, it sounds like in like Mark, I think that's the one that happens like a second time he does the storms, like, because yeah, timeline's iffy. So they were like panicking. It's like, have you already seen him do it or not? I don't know, but it's just like, but yeah. Yeah, so I can't remember if they have seen it or not, but it's still like, "Ah, yes." Jesus just casually does it and is like, "I am sleeping through a raging storm." Does not notice or wake up, and it's like only when they're literally trying to wake him up. Like, "Yep, okay, fine, I'll stop the storm. We're never in trouble anyway." It's like, it's almost like he's only stopping the storm to reassure them, even though like they were all fine. Like, even if it was the worst storm ever, the boat was never going to capsize. He just knows that. It could have been the worst storm ever, not going to capsize. He was like, doesn't matter. Until it's like, "Oh, fine, you're panicking. I'll calm your panicking and tell it to stop and go away." Oh, well. I'd make, like, that is for some reason the vibes I'm getting for this. That might be totally inaccurate. I make Jesus sound way... Sometimes I feel like I have no understanding. Like, my version of Jesus in my head and way people talk about Jesus sometimes is no correlation whatsoever, and it's times like this. Anyway, let's keep reading. Jesus heals 2 men with demons, and then he came to the other side, to the country of Gerasenes. 2 demons possessed men met him, coming out of the tomb, so fierce that no one would pass that way. And behold, they cried out, "What have you done to us, O Son of God? Have you come here to torment us before the time?" Now a herd of many pigs was feeding from some distance from them, and the demons begged him, saying, "If you cast us out, send us away into the herd of pigs." And he said to them, "Go." So they came out and went into the pigs, and behold, the whole herd rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the waters. The herdsmen fled. Going to the city, they told everything, especially what happened to the demon-possessed man. And behold, all the city came out to meet him, and when they saw him, they begged him to leave their region. This I always find weird. Like, Jesus is like, yeah, sure, demons, go and drown yourselves. Like, go into, choke the pigs. And then the demons are like, yes, we'll immediately drown ourselves. And it's like, you lose the thing you're possessing, like, immediately. And, like, I can't not know that Jesus knew this was going to happen. He's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. This town and this region can just lose half their supply of, like, herds and stuff and, like, economy and, like, produce and stuff. Yeah, that's fine. These two guys are demon free though, and it's like, I don't know. I don't understand that, and I've never been heard that in a context where any of that was explained, other than, oh my goodness, Jesus healed two demons, and it's like, I feel like we need to address that point, and I don't know the context of why. Like I understand completely with why the people in that region were like, please leave our region, because like you just destroyed half our economy. Like, please leave. Like, why? Like, why? Like, yeah, sure, he healed these two people. Like, great, but now our food source is gone. Yeah, that is end of chapter 8. But it's just like that Jesus heals two men with demons. That one, I don't know what to say to it. If you have any ideas, please share in the comments. I keep telling you to comments. There's like 14 of you. Actually, that's a lie. Only like 3 of you watch, and that could not even be the people subscribing. But like, if you're subscribed, I would hope you watch, but maybe you don't. Anyway, say 14 of you who have subscribed and seriously watched. Like, please tell me more. Like, if you have any ideas of what the whole, like, why? Just why? Like, were pigs not actually? Can they even eat pigs? I am now considering in the Hebrew Bible there's every chance they can't eat pig. Let's look it up quickly. That is a thought that has just occurred to me, and it's like, oh, why will you keep? Which makes it the question: why were you keeping pigs if you can't eat it? That means you're literally using it. That makes more sense. Oh, yeah, it's full on prohibited eating pork. So it wasn't their food source that was being destroyed. It was probably their food source being destroyed. But that wasn't supposed to be their food source. And if it wasn't, they were destroying the Romans. He was full on just destroying Romans' food sources, and if any of them were eating it, that was bad. Like, it was. Why were they so mad? Like, okay, what you need to understand right here is they all thought the Messiah was going to overthrow the Romans. Taking out Romans' food source is a good way of overthrowing people. Like, that makes a whole lot of sense. I don't think anyone's ever mentioned that when reading it, maybe because people assumed you just know what food it is that people can have, even though as a Christian we're not taught much about that. But yeah, it's like pork is a no-go zone for the Jews. And also Islam, by the way. And so like, it makes so much more sense. It's like, if it was a crowd of sheep, I don't think he would have done it. If it was a crowd of goats, he wouldn't have done it. Cows, I don't think either. But like, it was a food source they can't eat. Like, they can get nothing from pigs. Like, pigs don't even have that much. Like, you can't even really use their skin for anything. Like, why were they keeping pigs? So, yeah, you know what? That makes a hell of a lot more sense. And, yeah, I'm glad I did that. So, yeah, that's why the pigs were useless. The pigs were literally useless. I don't know. Now I no longer know why the townspeople kicked them out. Because they probably... maybe they were embarrassed that they were keeping pigs. Anyway. Bye!